Hello everyone, it is the 29th of April 2026 and it is exactly 10 years ago that Microsoft announced the public preview of Power Apps and Power Automate. They said power is to the people, and now 10 years later we will see if indeed the power was to the people. So let's start where it all began. It was in 2015, so 1 year before this big announcement, and it was when Power BI was announced and launched. It was a tool, business insights, data analytics for people to create dashboards and reports. But not long after the launch, people felt the need to change the data, to make data adjustment. And that's why exactly 10 years ago, Microsoft announced Power Apps and Power Automate. People could create their own Canvas apps to connect to data sources and make small apps themselves using low code. 2 years later, in 2018, Microsoft announced that they used the data model of Dynamics 365 to create an own database for Power Apps. It was the Dataverse, and together with the new model-driven apps, the model-driven apps were using the look and feel and the tools of Dynamics 365 to create a full platform where Power Automate, Power Apps, the two version Canvas apps and model-driven apps, and Power Automate were combined into one Power Platform with the Dataverse, a shared database. Then 1 year later, a new tool was added to the platform. It was Power Virtual Agents to create chatbots with a very structured way about how the conversations should look like, but you could create as a maker a chatbot experience for your end users. Then in 2020, it was the year of the lockdown, we all know, RPA capabilities were added to Power Automate, making sure that you could not only create cloud connections using API to cloud systems, no, it was also possible from that day on to create legacy connections to your on-premise systems, for example, using those desktop flows. And then Power Pages were announced because Power Apps was only available that days for users within your organization with an Entra ID or with a guest account. But with Power Pages, you could give access to people outside, creating portals and web platforms for your suppliers, your prospects, or whoever that is not part of your organization, but that should be able to change also and to interact data from your Dataverse. However, we saw that more and more enterprise-wide applications were developed on the Power Platform. So no longer only small improvements and extensions on Microsoft 365 and Dynamics, no, also real big, large, full end-to-end processes were automated using model-driven apps, Canvas apps, and Power Automate flows with Power BI dashboards. So that's why also the need for more managed environments and more governance features became louder, and that is also what Microsoft did from those years on. And then in November 2022, something big happened for the whole world because ChatGPT was launched worldwide. It had a huge impact on a lot of users inside and outside organizations, and that's why Microsoft launched a few months later their version, and it was called first Bing Chat, but not long after that it was rebranded and it was given a new name that will sound way more familiar for many of you. It is of course Copilot in February 2023. And then in November of the same year, Copilot Studio was launched. And it was not just a new version of Power Virtual Agents. No, AI was infused, and it was really a tool inside the Power Platform to create your own, not only chatbots, but also agents using a lot of AI capabilities. And from that day on, from that year, 2024, the Power Platform is really evolving into an AI-first agent-based platform. And we see that in multiple components. Of course, you have the Copilot Studio, where you can create your autonomous agents and also multi-agent orchestration layers. But also inside the Dataverse, we see features like prompt columns for Dataverse and row summaries. The AI Builder has been introduced, where you can create your custom prompts to add to your Power Automate flows or to connect to your agents created in Copilot Studio. And also the Microsoft 365 evolutions from Copilot or part and can be even added to the slide of the Power Platform ecosystem, because last year also an app builder agent was introduced and a workflow agents where people can create their own apps and flows in a very lightweighted style, and in that way it is way more easy to become a citizen developer than earlier. And you will also see at the end of this video, when we discuss some admin tools, why I have added those M365 Copilot agents here on this slide. But then the big question is, okay, today, 10 years ago, Power Apps was launched, but what will be the future of that specific tool, Power Apps? Let's deep dive into it. It is really part of an ecosystem, because 10 years ago, the Canvas apps were introduced as kind of a low-code tool. People, makers could drag and drop buttons, fields, forms to create their own app to interact with data. Then 2 years later, the model-driven apps were introduced, where the data really was the core of the app. So you created first your data inside Dataverse, and then you could tweak your forms and your views a little bit, but in fact, the model-driven app was created automatically. That's the low-code part. And for a long time, that was the challenge for Power Apps makers. Should I make a Canvas app or should I make a model-driven app? But since a few years, there are way more options. There is also the generative page. And in the generative page, you can use your own words to describe a page you want to be generated. And you can also select a model, and then a whole page will come out of it, just created with no code. Typically, those pages, as you can see, look like card views, Kanban boards, or calendar views. I already mentioned the app builder agent. Why? Because in M365 Copilot, you can go to the app builder agent. It's a frontier agent, and there you can describe whatever app you want. I have asked to create a Tetris app, and you see the result right here. If you have an app that needs data and you create it using the M365 app builder, then a new SharePoint site will always be, for now, the source of that application. A little bit more fancy are the Power Apps Vibe apps, currently only available in US environments. And as you can see here, this is a Power Minutes video that is created by my colleague Bruno. You may have seen it. If not, then you can rewatch it. And there he creates a full Vibe app just with giving instructions in natural language, and then an app is rolling out. It's all in TypeScript, but you cannot change the code. All the limitations currently of the Vibe apps are that you cannot use connectors, only the Dataverse connectors. You cannot really use and trigger Power Automate flows. And if you create an app, it's always a Vibe app. It's not a Canvas app, not a model-driven app, and you can also not use it offline. That limitation that you cannot change the TypeScript that is created, and that's why Microsoft also introduced the code apps. Within code apps, you can let developers create their own code-first applications in a development environment, like for example, Visual Studio. And they can develop it locally and then run the same app inside the Power Platform that is built on a popular framework like, for example, React. And the key features from the Power Platform are also part of that pro code thing that you have created. So you have the Entra authentication, you have the access to all the Power Platform data sources and the 1,500 plus connectors, yeah, you name it. You can host it on the Power Platform, and also your ALM can be done with Power Platform. So you have the advantages of Pro Code, and you also have the advantages of the Power Platform if you use those React code apps. So what we see now is that there is a full ecosystem, and that for each maker, for a low-code maker, for a pro-code maker, and for the no-code maker, that there is a known tool to create Power Apps that bring value for an organization. And then one of the last new things that is introduced is the Power Apps MCP server. And that MCP server can be used when you're working with GitHub Copilot or with Claude Code. And then you can use AI to generate code, YAML files, and to set co-authoring and work together on creating or editing an existing or a new Canvas app together with your Copilot or Claude. So that's the rise of an ecosystem. Today, we have a Power App for each kind of maker. And to manage all those kind of apps, we really needed more governance capabilities inside the Power Platform. And that's why, next to the Agent 365, inside the Power Platform Admin Center, a full new maker inventory is introduced. And in that maker inventory, you see, as an admin, as a Power Platform admin of your organization, a full list of not only the Canvas apps and the model-driven apps and the Power Automate flows of your organization, but also your Vibe apps, the code apps, the app builder apps, so the M365 Copilot apps, the M365 workflows are also shown inside it, and also the agents you have built in Copilot Studio. So a full list of all the components, of all the assets that your makers inside your organization have created can be found in the Power Platform Admin Center. So there you can see it, and what you can see, you can govern it and manage it. Enjoy making your apps as a low-code developer, as a pro-code developer, or even as a no-code developer, and see you soon. Happy birthday, Power Apps.